Okay, so I think as we are already 7, we can start. And I'm very happy to give the floor to our host, Sander, that has been one of my great mentor in the first and also in the second global training online. So Sander, if you're ready to go, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Paola. What a lovely, warm welcome for everybody. And it's amazing seeing so many people already. I see still people coming in, so really excited about this. We have 2 great speakers for you tonight. More about them later. My name is Sander van Adicum. I was trained in Minneapolis in 2019, and I was a mentor during Global Training 1 and 2, as Paola just mentioned. Last year, I joined 24 Hours of Reality, when the world was still normal and I could give a presentation in real life. But I really enjoyed it, and I was just hoping to make it even more people this year, see how big that number we can get of amount of presentations. As you probably know, this workshop will be 3 parts, each on Saturday. Today is part 1, when we will focus on how to customize the presentation, how to pick your slides and these kind of things. There will be plenty of room for questions and answers, Q&As. So if you have questions, please write them down or write them in the chat, and we'll try to come back to them later if you make it. Just a quick one on the second workshop. We will have a professional speaker coach, Mark, with us, and he will talk about how to improve your presentation skills, how to use your voice, how to use your hands, and these kind of things. The challenges of digital presenting will be during workshop 2. And in the final workshop, we will actually get busy ourselves. So we do some practice, and hopefully we'll be joined by a few experienced leaders as well who can advise us on that day. All right, before we get started, I would like to just get a quick preview of who we have in the audience. I heard Paola already mention a few countries, but if you would play the game along with me, I would like you to search on Google on your phone the country where you're from or where you feel most aligned to, and then find the flag of that country and then hold it up to the webcam so we can all see it. I usually get about 10% of the flags wrong, so please forgive me if I don't get your country, but I'm still learning. All right, Italy, that was easy, Paola, thank you. Another Italy. Oh, I'm gonna have to start scrolling now. I think is it Slovakia? Ooh, that's the Netherlands, Finland, US, Germany and the US, Hungary, South Africa. All right. Oh, Ryan, which country is that? You have to help me with that one. Ryan Zahid?
It's
UK.
Thank you, UK. All right, great. Norway, Scotland, Portugal, Spain. I'm not sure I mentioned that one. All right, also Brazil. All right, well, all over the world, I see. Oh, I think that's Colombia, UK. A lot more US. All right, awesome, everybody. I think I got a few wrong again, and I'm sorry if I didn't recognize your country, but it seems you have Kosovo as well. Thank you for shouting out. Seems like we have more than just Europe with us today. Zimbabwe, I see. Wow, awesome, people. Thank you very much for playing the game with me and teaching me a few new flags as well. I would just like to share my screen with you quickly to sort of go through today, and then I'll give the floor to our speakers. Let me get this going. Here we go. All right, can you see my screen? Should say 24. Okay, great. All right, so today we have 2 great speakers with us. We have Wei-Tai Kwok, who is an experienced climate reality leader. He has given over 100 presentations, and he will share some of his insights with us. He'll also introduce himself a bit later. And we have Zsolt, who has been with Climate Reality since 2009, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a really long time. And he'll take the floor soon, so you hear more from him as well. So Zsolt will start talking about the Green Recovery Campaign, which is a really exciting new campaign from the Climate Reality Project, which is also related to 24 Hours of Reality. And then Wei-Tai will take the floor talking about how to customize your presentation and how to pick the right slides and lots of useful insights. And then we have plenty of time for questions and answers. And after we do that Q&A, Wei-Tai will take the floor again and give us one of his famous presentations. And he will show us an example of how you can give a presentation in 10 to 15 minutes. And we follow that up again by Q&A. So if you have questions, please let us know. And we will close the session down by looking briefly at session 2. We'll have Mark with us, so he will introduce himself quickly, and then we'll wrap up the session. I just briefly wanted to mention that today is Jewish New Year. Apologies if we have caused any inconvenience to you. If you're still with us, thank you very much. Apologies, but the timing of the 24 hours was unfortunate for this. All right, final notes, just so you're absolutely clear about this. Everything will be shared virtually. So the presentations, the PowerPoint slides, anything we mentioned during this talk will be shared with you. So don't worry about that. If you have questions, drop them via the chat, as we already mentioned. And please note that the session is recorded, as Paula also already mentioned. All right, I think that was it. Zsolt, please take the floor.
Thank you, Sander. So just let me try to share my screen. I hope that I can do it. Okay, share. Good. Sorry for the difficulties, but it's always so complicated to see everybody on a small screen and to, at the same time, to share my thoughts and my slides. So I think that in the coming days, in the coming weeks, we are in the right moment to organize this 24 hours of reality. And instead of talking about why it is the right momentum, let me share a video which was just prepared by one of our European climate-related leaders, and I think the message is valid for not only for Europe, but for the whole planet. So I hope that this will work. I tested it several times, so.
The corona pandemic has changed the way we live and how we perceive the world. Many people want to go back to the old way, but did the old way really work? Isn't it time for a new way? A greener and more sustainable way? A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is coming up for Europe, an opportunity we cannot afford to miss. Let's turn 2020 into a historic moment where people and countries come together to start our carbon-neutral and sustainable future. A future we can be proud to pass on to our next generations. Let's lead on climate. Our future starts now. Let's make green recovery a reality.
So, okay. So why October 11th? Why does it matter that we organize this global campaign? And as I said, I truly believe that we have the best timing to raise awareness of the climate emergency and to send a message to our decision makers across Europe, but also across the whole planet. What is on stake during these days? On stake, I think, first of all, a big amount of money, trillions of euros, dollars will be spent on restarting economies and societies after the COVID pandemic. And the question is whether we shall support business as usual, or we shall increase our ambitions and efforts to stay below the 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming. So I truly believe that our 24 hours of reality will send a clear message. Let's make the Paris Agreement a reality. What are the facts and the problems in Europe these days? First of all, it's also true for globally. The 2020 is the year to increase the nationally determined contributions, the ambitions. The question is how the countries will increase their ambitions. In Europe also, there is a problem that we will spend close to 2 trillion euros on recovery, and we should make sure that this budget will be spent on the proper way. And also similarly large funds are created in our countries, I'm sure not only Europe, but across the planet. The problems are obvious. What we can see, what we can face with that countries have weak ambitions. Even the European Union is not strong in ambitions. What we can also see that there is a lack of legally binding connection between the recovery funds and the Paris Agreement targets. We can still see that countries are subsidizing the fossil industry and the fossil sectors. We also face with the problem that there is only a low focus on just transition, so communities that will need some support when shifting from the fossil to renewables are not supporting correctly. And also what I can see in Europe, that there is a problem with the transparency, and also there is a problem how the community, how the society is involved into the decisions. What are the ambitions on EU level? What are the ambitions on non-EU level? So just let me share you a few examples. Here in Europe, there is a very complicated decision-making system. I'm sure that you more or less know about it. First of all, the European Parliament plenary will vote about a new NDC target, which will be recommended. At the moment, this is 60%. The European Commission will arrive to the table with a 55% recommendation. But the problem is that we can see that even in this 55%, there are a lot of loopholes for the countries. And obviously, the most important player in this so-called trialogue is the European Council. And when we take into consideration the European Council, the question is who will be stronger, the frontrunners or the dinos? And what we can see, there is a real risk that the dinos will be stronger in this trialogue. So in the coming weeks, the European Parliament will vote about the proposal. And in the middle of October, around the 15th or the 16th of October, the European Council with the heads of states, with the prime ministers or other high-level decision makers will make a final decision on the NDC proposal, on the NDC commitment of the European Union. But if we take other countries as an example, I have just one country here, Switzerland, which I recently, yesterday, heard about their new target, which is 50%. We could say that 50% is something stronger than earlier, but they also want to include carbon cutting projects abroad into this 50% target. And because I'm sure that we have so many UK participants, I just would like to mention that even in a country like UK, where we know that the country was able to generate electricity without coal for almost, if I remember correctly, for almost 2 months. Even in this country, there is a debate about reopening coal mines. So yes, our 24 hours of reality events can send a strong signal to the decision makers. No, we want a green recovery. We want to make the Paris Agreement a reality. So what can you do on October 11th and beyond? First of all, organize presentations, events for families, friends, colleagues, communities, and so on. Talk about the magnitude of the possibilities and the risks connected to the recovery spendings. I'm sure that after the presentation, there will be a lot of possibilities to share thoughts about the current processes. So that is a good opportunity to just to open the floor for such dialogue. And last but not least, make sure that the participants of your events register on the 24 Hours of Reality website. Why it is important? First of all, that all participants, after all participants, there will be a tree planted. So we can only plant a tree when we know how many participants joined your presentations or our presentations. And last but not least, on this website, they will be able to join a call to action, which is in Europe, for Europe, is a petition called Bailouts, Yes for People and the Planet, which we organize in partnership with the leading NGOs of Europe. And I can tell you that at the moment, so far, almost 362,000 signatures have been collected in this partnership on this petition. So we hope that the 24 Hours of Reality will skyrocket this number in Europe, and then we can send a strong message again to the decision makers that we want a green recovery, we want the Paris Agreement to make a reality. Just a few tips and tricks from my side. I think some of them might be useful for your presentations. As I recommended, organize presentations even for your family, because we believe that the smallest audience is as important as a football stadium. What I can also recommend, join efforts. You can organize online events together. You can invite fellow climate leaders to follow your presentation, or even invite fellow leaders from other countries or other continents to contribute to your presentation. Last year, I had the opportunity to invite two speakers for two different events under 24 Hours of Reality. One of them was from India, speaking about the climate crisis in India, how the climate change impacts the environment. That was for high school students. The other was for journalists, and that was a European climate change leader who is originally from Iran and could make a presentation how the climate crisis contributes to the war situation in his country. So just to conclude, I just would like to mention how the branch can help you. First of all, you maybe heard about it, but it's good to know that slide decks in Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, Italian, and maybe in other languages will be available. If you have questions, if you need help, if you need advice, please feel free to contact us as well. And last but not least, we are happy to upload your events on our website under the What's New section. and inform us if you have something outstanding in the pipeline. And I hope that Paula allow me to share this idea that we generated, I think yesterday, that we plan to organize an opening party for Europe on October 10th in Central European time at 10 p.m., which will be an informal event to kick off the 24 hours of reality. Bring a glass of drink, open your mind and heart, and be ready to meet fellow leaders. So that's it. Just let me finish with a picture from 2019 when we were able to organize events. This is a very interesting venue that Patrick is also online organized. This is in a coal mine where there was a debate about just transition, how the coal miners and this Upper Silesia region should be supported to shift from fossils to renewables. So thank you. And as Al Gore said, our world depends on this day as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Zsolt. Virtual applause for Zsolt. Here we go. Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Zsolt. I booked at 10 p.m. on the 10th already in my agenda. I'll get a cold drink ready. And those amount of signatures was really impressive. So that's quite a number you shared. That's really, really good news. Thank you, Zsolt. If you have any questions for Zsolt or in general, please put them in the chat. If you can, please put a Q in front of your questions so it's easier for me to spot them. Zsolt might be leaving in a few minutes. Let me double check. Zsolt, are you still with us for the Q&A or will you be going?
I'm here for the next 5 minutes, and sorry that I have to leave.
Okay, no worries. Let me see. Is that because we were planning to do the Q&A later? But let me see. Let me take 2 questions. If anybody has a question, urgent question for Zsolt, please, can you share it with me? You can just speak up and ask it directly to Zsolt. Any questions?
Could you give us your email, please?
Yeah, I'm typing my email address into the chat, so you will see it in a second.
All right, that was question 1. Anybody has another question they would like to ask?
Yeah, can we have the slides available, please?
Sure, I will share it.
Thank you.
Yes, we will share all slides from Zsolt and all the presentations coming up at the end in one document, so you have everything together. That will be really easy. All right, Zsolt, thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time to be with us.
And this is so wonderful to see so many climate leaders joining this event. Thank you for organizing to everybody.
All right, awesome. I see people are still coming in. We are well over 100 people, so that's really cool. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this Saturday evening or morning, wherever you are. Our next speaker is actually woke up early to practice. It's still 10, well, a little bit later right now. Wei-Tai, I would like to give the floor to you, and please take it away.
Great, thank you, and welcome everybody. Hello from San Francisco, California. It's good to see you, and for a whole global audience here being represented. My name is Wei-Tai Kwok, and I got trained as a climate reality leader in Chicago back in 2013. And so I'm just celebrating 7 years as a climate reality leader. And I'm really excited to be with you today to focus on 3 weeks from now. We're going to be having 24 hours of reality, and it's an opportunity for us to all put together and become part of the world's largest conversation on climate change all in one day. And our goal as the Climate Reality Project is to get 3,000 presentations going. And I hope the 100-some people here that after we listen today will go sign up and add 100 more presentations to get going. So my goal is to help demystify and make it easier for you to get your talks together and participate in that wonderful day. So let me share my screen with you and some slides today. Yep, hopefully that's coming through well. As I mentioned, yeah, I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. Let me just say, I'm in my day job when I'm not working on climate change work for Climate Reality. I'm in the solar and renewable energy industry. I started in that business in 2009, soon after I watched An Inconvenient Truth, and I decided I needed to quit my field of advertising and get to be part of the solution to climate change. And so that's really, in the last 7 years, been on renewable and on giving talks. So let's jump right in to figure out how to get your presentations together. As Sandra mentioned, all my slides here will be downloadable afterwards, so you don't have to worry about taking too many notes here. You'll get the whole copy. So one of the first questions people ask is, how do I get a copy of the latest version of Vice President Gore's slideshow? And so for those of you, hopefully have already gone to Reality Hub, but you would go into the resource section and click on the slide deck section there. And you're gonna come and see 4 key documents that are useful for the upcoming event. And the most obvious one is the one that says 24 Hours of Reality Countdown for the Future. But before I click on there and go into that, I actually want to share with you the other documents right above it and below it, which are the August 2020 and July 2020 trainings that many of you who attended the global training just now, you will be able to see. And so just as an example, let me click on the July one and go into there. And what we're gonna see in there is that there's something called the full deck, which is 500 slides. That's, remember, Mr. Gore presented across 4 days, and all 4 of those days is 500 slides, and those are all compiled into one Mac or PC version, Keynote or PowerPoint. And at the bottom, there's something called the short deck. And that was the version he presented on almost the last day, and he sometimes calls this the Truth in 10. And so for this event, we're recommending that you mainly start with the 100 slide deck, the short deck, and build your presentation from there. We'll get into that in a little more detail, but I do want to point out this very hidden link there that's called the slide deck guide, and it's a PDF. It's so important that I want to actually click on it and share with you one of the key aspects of that slide deck guide, because I didn't know about it when I got trained, but I found it years later, and it is a key to understanding how the slideshow is organized. And here, I color-coded it for you to show you that Mr. Gore's presentation is actually in 3 parts: the science, the impacts, and the solutions. And in the beginning, part 1 in yellow, you see the areas of science and impacts, and solutions. This is what we call the arc of the story. And so most of us are not preparing slideshows that are 500 slides long, but instead maybe it's 50. And so we need to pick some slides from the science, some slides from the impacts, and some from the solutions, so that we can maintain that arc of the story. In my case, I'm in California today, and we have lots and lots of wildfires. And so I'm going to actually pick, for my audiences here, more from the wildfire and drought section. But elsewhere around the world, you may want to pick those sections that are more relevant to you. And likewise on the solution sections, you may want to pick those topics that you're more comfortable talking about, okay? But try to pick from all 3 sections to maintain that arc of the story. Okay, so now you know that there's something that are called full decks and something called short decks. And I just want to say that the 24 Hours of Reality deck is simply the same as the July 2020 short deck. It's the exact same document, right? They just moved it over into there. Okay, so don't be confused about that. Let's go ahead and dive into that 24 Hours of Reality deck. And again, take a look to see that the Mac Keynote and the PC PowerPoint versions are there. It's 100 slides, but also something new under this area, which I highly recommend you click on, is a video showing Mr. Gore delivering that exact 100 slide presentation, you know, from day 8, I believe, in the July training, or the last day. And he does that in 14 minutes, okay? And I think if you look closely, you see on the right-hand slide that you see that he's using this must we change, can we change, and will we change, right? He asks 3 questions. And that's the first time we sort of see this as a bit of a organizing a chapter heading. So I want to share with you how those chapter headings correlate to the arc of the story that I just told you about. The must we change is for that first and second section. Can we change is about the solutions. And then finally, will we change is his closing. Okay, so sometimes I use these chapter headings during my talks. Sometimes it'll help me to give some milestones for me to pass through, but I don't always use them. So it's up to you whether you like to use those chapter headings or not. Now, back on this page, I want you to actually be sure you scroll down further to the very bottom because something new was added here even just a few days ago. And that is a link to a video of Mr. Gore introducing you. And he does this in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It's an opener to the 24 Hours of Reality, October 11th presentation. So I'll share this with you a little later, but I just want you to know where you're going to be able to find this nifty little video. Okay, so let's shift gears and take a look at what about those actual slides. Hopefully many of you have already downloaded this and you've already seen this and you've noticed that in every slide and every slide deck, there are a notes section. And this is a very important part for me to better understand the slides. So I want to just break down what I think are some of the key areas there. The top section of the slide always tells you the legal and usage requirements. So in this case, this particular slide can be used in non-commercial online broadcasts of your presentation, but not modified. So we always like to read what and make sure we're allowed to use the slide in the form that we're going to use. The next section in blue here is Al Gore's actual words that he spoke in presenting this slide. And the next section in green are some optional points. If you want to dive deeper than he did, you can add a couple more points. And finally, at the bottom, this is what I love about Climate Reality, is that every slide is very carefully annotated with the source of where the information came from. And especially when I was a new presenter after I got trained, you know, if I picked 50 slides, I went down to the reference section and I clicked on every single link of all 50 slides so I could get comfortable and ramp up and understand what was going on, just in case anybody asked me a tough question about that slide, that I would be ready. And that helped me increase my confidence as a public speaker. So I highly recommend the reference section. Okay, so all of that is again at the bottom in the notes section under every single slide. Let's change to another topic that many people ask, which is how many slides should I present in my presentations? And so I suggest for 24 Hours of Reality this year that in planning a Zoom call, we're not in person, but I would think that so many of us are on Zoom all week long and it can be really tiring that a 1 hour session is at maximum is probably about right. Maybe even shorter, 45 minutes. So if that's the case, then we're probably speaking for 30 minutes and maybe having Q&A for 15 to 30 minutes. Because remember, this is more about creating a conversation about climate change. I think it would be very unsuccessful if we spoke for 59 minutes and left 1 minute to Q&A and then hung up. Right? That's not having a conversation. So I think like a half and half would be more of a balance for us trying to create a conversation that day. And so if we have just say 30 minutes at most to talk, I would do up to 60 slides. And if I had 20 minutes, because maybe the first 10 minutes I want to do an icebreaker or I want to do my personal story, then it's more likely that I'm planning for about 40 slides. And this would be presenting at the pace of 2 slides per minute. Sometimes people think that's a little quick, but I do think Mr. Gore's presentation and his own speed of 5 or 6 or 7 slides per minute compared to 2 provides a certain level of energy in his presentations that I think is, I happen to like. So, but you pick what you're comfortable with. The right number is whatever you feel comfortable with, but this is anyways a way to start thinking about it. Another question people always ask is it okay to add your own slides to Mr. Gore's presentation? And the answer is absolutely yes. Over the years, I've seen Climate Reality presenters put either lots of slides or very few slides in. And so anywhere between 20 to 80% of a climate reality presenter slides are their own slides. So feel free to add some of your own. I'm going to give you some examples of slides that I regularly use. This is a picture of from 2006 of my son Gareth on the left when he was at kindergarten, and I was visiting his school, and my daughter Shelley with grandma in our backyard garden when she was in 3rd grade. This was the year that I saw An Inconvenient Truth and decided that I wanted to take action on climate. And many climate leaders actually show pictures of their family because it is one of the most motivating reasons why we're taking action for our children. And if that is your motivation, please, feel free to put pictures of your family. Another thing, this is an example of me on my roof installing a solar system back in 2012. So I like to show examples of what I'm doing in my life that are part of the solution as a way to create a conversation on that, or to set an example to others of really how many solutions there are out there. And finally, some of you know that we've had massive wildfires out in California. We've had 28 record days of poor air consecutively where we're not going outside. And this is just last Wednesday. You might have heard that the sun did not come out in San Francisco and the skies were orange. And that's me in my pajamas. I got out of bed and went out on my deck, and it was like I was on Mars. It was really the weirdest feeling. So there's a lot of things you can do to talk about the solutions, but also the impacts to us on the climate crisis. So a couple more things about personal slides. Number one, remember that facts matter. So we are from the Climate Reality Project, and we're called that for a reason. So we need to make sure that our slides are really science-based and fact-based. Please do your homework when you're presenting and make sure that your sources are legitimate, because even a couple slides that are off color can detract from all the other slides that you've been presenting. And secondly, the images we use also matter. I strongly recommend using your own pictures and images to personalize your content. But if you do go out on the internet looking for for pictures from the web, it's important to understand and respect copyrights, that some of those are not really allowable for use. And so one of the great sites that Sander suggested to me, and as you can look for free photos that have no licensing needs, you can use them freely without permission needed. So unsplash.com, unsplash.com. I, for example, clicked the word solar panel or typed that in, and got a lot of beautiful photos out of it. So check that site out, unsplash.com. Okay, so let's switch a little bit of gears now and look at how we combined climate reality slides that I talked to you about, plus the personal slides I talked about, to create your perfect presentation for 24 hours of reality that's coming up. And so I want to give you an example of how I built a presentation I'm going to share with you a little bit later. But I went into the short deck, the 100-slide deck, and I picked about 20 to 30 slides that I could build the arc of the story, which remember is some from the science, some from the impacts, and some from the solutions. And then I decided that I wanted to talk about electric vehicles, because I think EVs are a wonderful way to achieve a zero emission future. So I got some photos of my family with our electric vehicle, how we go charge it, and how our family likes it. It's fun to drive and fun for our whole family. And then I thought of a title at the very bottom, like why I think EVs are a solution to the climate crisis. Okay, so what I want to emphasize from this is that I'm taking some of Mr. Gore's content to set the framework of what the climate crisis is and its impact, but then I'm funneling the presentation to a sweet spot, or something I'm good at, or something I know. And each of you is good at or knows something about something. And to make our conversations and presentations less stressful to us, we want to try to have the conversations about an area that we're good at talking about. And so try to funnel the conversation to like electric vehicles or plant-based diets, whatever you're passionate about. And that will help the Q&A be a bit more structured afterwards in your sweet spot, okay? So a reminder, I built my presentation, I came up with my title, so now it's time for me to actually go register my talk on 24 Hours of Reality. And so here we go. We're going to go over to Reality Hub to post a presentation. And if you go to the bottom of that page there, I have the choice to either post it privately over on the left-hand side if it's not for the public to see, or in my case, I want everybody to see it and I'd like it to be publicized, and I'd love to have people I don't know come to my presentation. So I'm going to click on the lower right and post a public presentation. I'm going to key in all of that information there, and so the date, it's going to be the link that you see down there, my name, my contact information, and you can see the title, Why I Think EVs Are a Solution to the Climate Crisis, is put right there. And you can see I could customize the photos and so forth. Now that I've published it on Reality Hub, I'm ready to even further publicize my talk for that day. So I'm going to use the great toolkit that Climate Reality Headquarters has given us and take some of their graphics for my Facebook page. And I've already posted my talk on Facebook, and there's a Twitter graphic that Headquarters provides. This is all on Reality Hub. And so you can download these images, and then finally I'm going to email a whole bunch of my friends and invite them to my talk. So this is some real basic social media marketing that I'm going to do to get traction for my talk. So the question for you would be, how do I get people to my talk? Who should I network with? And what type of groups should I go after to give my talk to? So this is just an example that Climate Rally put a checklist together, but religious groups, here we are, your churches, your synagogues, people that may know you're doing climate work, but have never heard your presentation. So this is really a fun way to get an opportunity to invite those groups of people to say, hey, would you like to participate with me in the world's largest conversation on climate all in one day? That's going to be Sunday, October 11th in Europe time, or October 10th in America time. So pick a group. Like I'm going to do 3 presentations that weekend, like morning, noon, and night. In the morning, I actually going to do my high school friends, and then some other clubs or community groups. I'm actually going to go back to one of my old companies I worked at 14 years ago and do a little reunion of my old colleagues and see what they're up to, but share with them this. So you can pick some groups to target and do private conversations, or you could just post it on your Facebook and get anybody to come and register. Okay, so these are just some tactics and techniques of what you might think about doing. Now, a lot of people are worried about what online platform should they use to do this broadcast, because most of us are not going to be giving this in person this year. We're going to be doing it from the comfort of our homes. So I actually strongly recommend the Zoom platform that we're on right now, simply because so many people are familiar with it. And Zoom is available free. You can sign up and host up to 100 people, but up to only 40 minutes, and then it cuts off. So there is a workaround that I suggest if you want to do the free route, to instead of just setting up one meeting, that you set up 2 meetings consecutively. For example, start at 11 to 11:40, tell your audience you're going to take a 5-minute break, and then to come back at 11:45 until say 12:15 for a Q&A session. So this involves, again, sending out 2 links when you're doing your meeting invites. But unfortunately, there's a little bit of a pause, but maybe you use it to your advantage to have a little break. Otherwise, you can do a paid pro account, which is what I do. It's $149 a year. But more importantly, you don't have to sign up for a year. It looks like you do, but if you clicked on it, you actually have the choice to do a monthly plan for $14.99 a month. And if you do that $14.99 plan, and you can find 3 climate leaders to share with you, then and cancel within 30 days, then it's actually only $5 each. If you do morning, noon, and night, and you're not all going to be on at the same time, you can share your account with a buddy doing it. So I actually recommend the pro plan, since it's not that much money, but I think the free plan also works. There are many other platforms out there, but anyways, why don't we pause there? And I've covered a lot. I've been talking a lot, so why don't we do some Q&A here, Sander, and just take it from the audience, okay?
Thank you, Wei-Tai. Yeah, I like how you waved your own images throughout the presentation, and if California wasn't so serious, that was quite a comical image, but unfortunately it's not comical at all. All right, I saw some questions coming in. If you have any more questions, please just drop them in the chat. We'll do a 10-minute Q&A now, and then Wei-Tai will do another presentation, and we'll do a quick Q&A after that as well, just to make sure you have everything asked and answered. I asked before if you had any questions for our speakers. I had one question coming in from Bradley. Bradley, are you with us?
Hi, I'm here.
Great.
Thanks, Wei-Tai, for the first presentation. It was excellent. And it's so nice to see so many familiar and new faces as well. So I have a question that I've already seen in the chat as well. But whenever there's a Zoom presentation, it seems to be that everyone wants a copy of the presentation. So for the 24 hours of reality presentation, and if someone in the audience asks for a copy of it, is it okay to give it to them?
Okay, that's a really good question. Are we allowed to give copies of our presentations? And generally the answer is no. We're not allowed to, on that August slideshow and the July slideshow presentation, we're not, but let me pull up my screen once again, and I will give you a shortcut of how you might be able to share some content with your audiences who ask you for the presentation. So you remember this screen where I talked about you could download the 24 hours. The one thing that I did not show you was the fourth choice down at the bottom there. And that is called the 2020 Truth in 10 slide deck. Now, this is a little bit confusing, but there is something called the Truth in 10 slide deck that when we click on it, remember Zsolt told us that they're multilingual versions of it. But, and so I'm showing you here the English, Portuguese, French, Japanese versions, but also the red underline here. It says, it can be shared with others in your community. So these are the only slides that you can use that you could share with your community. I'm sorry, let me add the Spanish group, version of this was just published last week by the Latin America group. So it's all there. Take a screen grab now, or you can download this later again and download the Spanish version. But if you go into those slides, and you read the legal lines, which I told you about before, you can see that here it says, this Truth in 10 deck is available to the public, not just climate reality leaders, to be used in non-commercial, non-promotion, blah, 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 and the slide may not be modified. So in this version, you can give your slide deck out. And if you add personal slides in there that you don't mind sharing, those obviously you'll be able to hand out. So the answer to your question, thank you for such an excellent one, is that no, we're not supposed to generally give our slides out. Only trained climate leaders get the slides, with the exception of the limited 50 slides in the Truth in 10.
Thank you, Wei-Tai. That was a really good answer. There was 2 more questions coming in about sharing our presentations. Audrey Heller, you want to ask the question maybe?
Sure. I was just asking about whether we could share a video of our presentation, not actually sharing the decks, but if we do a recording of our Zoom presentation, could we post that on social media or on YouTube?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And for that, I would again refer you to the legal lines in the in each slide, because some of them will say you can stream this but not record it. Okay, and so the most permissive ones is that last Truth in 10 I talked about, where you can stream it and you can record it.
So if we wanted to do a presentation that we were going to post, we should restrict our slides to that most shareable set, and then we would be able to.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much for pointing that out, because this, again, there are hundreds of slides, and each one that has images, they have to negotiate with each photographer on the licensing rights, and it costs more and more and more the more rights you want. So it becomes more and more expensive. So the answer is check those legal lines to see.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you love a picture of a solar panel that's restricted, then go swap out that image with that the website I showed you and get an unrestricted image to stick in there, so that there's no limitations.
All right, great. The questions keep rolling in, so I think we're not going to make it in 10 minutes, but I just want to announce there's a second Q&A, and Wei-Tai has already announced that he will stick around for another 20 or 30 minutes at the end. So if you have more questions, please stick around after our event. All right, I had a question from Dr. Yifeng Lu. Are you with us, and are you willing to share the question with us, or should I ask it for you?
Sure, I'm here.
Great.
Hi. Yeah, just a quick question. So I'm giving my presentations to an overseas branch of Democrats abroad, and I do remember all the agreements that we signed about not supporting any particular political candidates or things of that nature. But I did remember at the end of the training that you know, Vice President Gore said that the most powerful thing that we can do is to vote, and I mean, you know, one party has a climate platform and the other party has no platform. So how far can we go in supporting, for example, like Biden-Harris, or, you know, yeah.
Yeah, so the Climate Reality Project is a great question. Thank you for that. And that comes up all the time, especially in the American political season right now. So let's just remember that the Climate Reality Project is a 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan. We welcome any party members. We don't care who you are, because everybody should care about the climate crisis. And so all the messaging we do when we wear our hat as a climate reality leader, we must be nonpartisan. However, at the end of your presentation, you can tell everybody that I'm taking off my climate reality leader hat and I'm speaking only as me, Wei-Tai Kwok, because I have some personal thoughts about the upcoming election. And in that regard, I'd like to share my views as X, Y, and Z. And that's a way that you can sort of partition and protect the nonprofit status, and at the same time, make your opinions known. Okay, great. Thank you. Let's go to the next question.
All right, I think we have time for two more. Let me see. Bruce Daisley, I think that's a very important question. Bruce Daisley?
Yes. Yes, sorry. Can you hear me? Sorry, I was decorating my wall while I was listening. You know, multitasking. Yeah, one of my preoccupations is that I'm going to do an event and there's going to be a climate denier in the audience, and I'm going to find myself consumed with getting into a line by line, well, takedown analysis. How likely do you think it is, and what suggestions would you have of a way to prepare for that?
Okay, gosh, that's a fantastic question with a lot of different permutations to it. If you're doing a very private meeting and marketing it just to your friends, the likelihood of having a very rude and disruptive climate denier is small. But if you post it on your Twitter feed and you got 10,000 followers, then the likelihood is probably high. Okay, so that's sort of the risk in a very general public. So I would recommend, if you do use Zoom, that you have a friend with you, maybe you make the co-host and is moderating and watching out for Zoom bombing, and can have the powers to push people off the call and ban them from the call so they're not disruptive to your meeting. So that's just a technical answer to how you could stop from disruption. That being said, I used to fear having a climate denier in my presentations, because, you know, here I am on stage and they asked me some really tough question. And so I used to fear it, but after having one or two of them, and there are not that many of them, I actually realized that they are actually helpful to my cause, because in an audience of 100 people, most of who are open-minded and thinking about your topic, if they hear one of their peers saying so many things anti-science and so forth, I think it sends the message to them that it's important for them to speak up, because if they don't speak up what they think, there are other people out there speaking up on the opposite side. So I sort of think that they help our cause, and I don't usually try to tell them to their face in the meeting that they're wrong. Usually I say, well, thank you for sharing your views. I don't happen to share those views with you, but you know, you try to just accept that and say, you know, what I've learned is that X, Y, and Z, but thank you very much. Let's go to the next question. You know, try to move on from it, but I actually think they can help us and not hurt us. Let's go to one more question, and then we'll go on to the next section. And keep typing your questions in the chat, and I'd invite all the mentors and all of the smart people out there to type answers. I'm not the only source of answers here, and so please, I love seeing in the chat there. I'm not eyeballing it, but I know and encourage everybody to type your answers out, and we'll get the wisdom of the crowds going here. Last question. Which one is it, Sander?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed your question. Please don't take it personal. There's a billion thing at one going on. I had a question from Brenda Ainsley. Are you with us, Brenda? Wait, I asked you. No, I did not ask you yet. Brenda, please.
Yeah, my question was, if I want to pitch a presentation with a particular focus, let's say plastics and petrochemicals, is there a shortcut way to find out if another leader has done a similar topic that can be a starting point for me rather than starting from scratch?
Okay, so the question is, if you're interested in a topic like petrochemicals or anything, but you don't want to start from scratch, what could you do? And in this case, I do think getting on Reality Hub or getting on on Facebook pages where for presenters, there's a presenters working group on Facebook that's very highly populated, and hopefully somebody can put in the URL into the chat there. But go ahead, I would post in some of the climate reality forums to say exactly what your request is, and I would not be surprised if you get many people, you know, jumping in with their ideas and their offerings, whatever your topic may be. But yeah, definitely we're a team with now almost 28,000 people around the world. There's a lot of expertise, and so just ask others for help. Okay. Sander, should we keep going, and we have another, I'm going to share a little bit of my talk. We'll do another Q&A, and then even after we adjourn, I'm happy to stay on for 20 or 30 more minutes to answer any questions that people may have. Does that work for you, Sander?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, just let the questions come in through the chat. I'll try to collect them as they come in. Wei-Tai will take about 10 to 12 minutes, I think, for his presentation. So keep a close eye. And see what you want to know, and then we'll come back with another Q&A. Wei-Tai, you ready?
All right. So, in that past section there, I focused mainly on how you can get your slides organized and prepared to deliver your actual talk. And in this next section here, I'm going to actually pretend like it's October 10th or 11th, and I'm going to give you a short talk based on the tools and techniques that I just showed you about putting together a presentation. And in this version, I actually took 35 slides from Climate Reality, and I took 16 of my own slides. And so it's a total of 50 slides that I'm going to present to you. And I also added that introductory video from Vice President Gore, and I put it up front in my presentation, okay? So those are a couple things I'm gonna have you look for as we do this, and then, but you know, put any questions you may have as we get going. Okay, so let's fast forward and pretend that you're my audience for October 11th, and you've dialed in, and here I am. Welcome everybody, it's October 11th. The start of 24 Hours of Reality. Today's a really special day because we're part of a global event called 24 Hours of Reality Countdown to the Future. And we're joining up with 3,000 other locations around the world to create the world's single largest conversation about climate change. But before I start, I want to share a video greeting from the chairman and founder of the Climate Reality Project, former US Vice President Al Gore. And let's see, here he is.
Hello, everyone. I'm Al Gore, and I want to thank you for joining us today for 24 Hours of Reality Countdown to the Future. As all of you know, we're living through truly extraordinary times. And if you're like most people, you look at these challenges that we're facing now, the climate crisis getting worse, the COVID-19 pandemic, structural and institutional racism, the challenges to the operations of democracy, and you ask yourself, what can we do? How do we overcome these truly existential threats that are connected, and how do we build together the sustainable future and the just and fair future that we want and deserve? Well, the presentation you're about to hear and the discussion you're about to join is about these questions. Your host is an incredible climate reality leader that I personally have worked with, and through their presentation, you'll learn the science behind the climate crisis and why it is having such a devastating impact on the ecological balance of our planet. You'll also learn how the climate crisis is connected to the COVID-19 pandemic and is connected to the broader injustices and inequities, not only in the US where I'm located, but in places all around the planet. Just as important, you'll learn that we have the solutions, and you'll learn how we can work together to solve these crises, starting with a green recovery and with a just transition to clean energy and the technologies that can make our world better in every way. You'll learn what you personally can do to make a difference and to help us create the future that we want and that humanity deserves. So before I hand you back to your host, I want to say one other thing. Thank you for being a part of this global conversation. The truth of our circumstances is very clear. We have to solve the climate crisis, and we have the solutions we need today. I know that we can solve the climate crisis. We have the political will. You know it's a renewable resource, but it's really because of people like you who are ready to commit the time and energy and attention and stand up and fight for a better world. Because of you, I know that we will succeed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gore, for that wonderful introduction. And so I'd like to now start my story today and dive right in with this photo taken of our planet, the planet Earth, back 50 years ago by the last of the Apollo missions in 1972. And this one is called the Blue Marble. It's the most published photograph in all of history and shows the beautiful home planet that we all share. And in thinking about that planet, there are really three questions that we must start to ask us about it. Must we change? Can we change? And will we change? And so let's take them one at a time. The first question is, must we change? And to this, it requires a little bit of explanation about the science and the impacts of the climate crisis. I want to share that there are actually many human activities on planet Earth that contribute to greenhouse gases which warm our planet. For example, there's air transportation, land transportation, oil production, burning of forests, and even cattle raising, all sources of global warming pollution. However, the leading cause of global warming is actually the burning of fossil fuels, which has accelerated rapidly since the end of World War II and in the modern era during my lifetime. In fact, so much greenhouse gases have gotten into the atmosphere that the planet is getting a lot hotter. 19 of the 20 hottest years ever measured by weather instruments have all occurred since the year 2001. And the hottest of all have been the last 5 years. Over in Europe, you've been having the hottest year on record. A lot of these countries that you see on the right-hand side last year broke their all-time temperature highs. And this summer up in Siberia in Russia, the temperature reached higher than 38 centigrade, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. These are record temperatures for the Arctic Circle. Now, with those warming air temperatures, we are actually creating more moisture in our skies because warmer air can hold more water vapor. And that water vapor does not get evenly distributed around the planet. It actually tends to aggregate in these atmospheric rivers that you see on the animation here. They get concentrated in certain areas. So when you have more concentrated moisture in the sky, it will come down, and when it does rain, it comes down in a more concentrated form. And we're starting to experience these things called rain bombs, like you see here, these enormous downpours, like this picture in Montana in the United States. The impact of that has been greater and more frequent and more severe floods here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Sadly, the impact of these storms are disproportionately impacting people of color and disadvantaged communities. So the climate crisis impacts, like the COVID impacts that Mr. Gore mentioned, are unevenly distributed to people who are least able to handle them. Now, the same extra heat that's evaporating that water from the ocean and causing the bigger downpours and floods is also pulling more moisture out of our soils and causing longer and deeper droughts. So we have too much water and too little water all at the same time. In Europe this past summer, you can see that groundwater levels are alarmingly low across the whole continent. And in Poland and the parts of the Czech Republic, it's the worst drought they've seen in at least 500 years. Not different from the California drought we had earlier in the decade. For us, over 300 years of record-breaking drought. Now, these hotter years and drier droughts cause more wildfires. This is a chart of the west coast of the United States showing when the temperature's higher, we have more wildfires. And this picture of Vacaville is just a 20-minute drive from my house here in Lafayette. And this picture was taken only a few weeks ago as one of over 360 wildfires burning across my state of California. Napa Valley is only 30 minutes from my house, and people there had to evacuate in the middle of the night, and their homes were just completely destroyed. I will tell you the sentiment here in San Francisco is nobody is thinking cannot happen to me. In fact, we are all starting to get prepared in case our house is going to burn down. My wife and I, the last 3 or 4 weeks, what have we been doing as we're sheltering in place? We've been going bedroom by bedroom. We called our son who's in college. We said, hey, Gareth, if your room burns down tomorrow, what do you want us to keep? So he said, get my autograph helmet and 8 baseballs, and you know what he's passionate about. We asked our daughter, who's working in Boston, and she said, oh, please keep all my Christmas cards and birthday cards from grandma, and also be sure to grab my teddy bear. That's, some of her important things. So we've loaded up our car. This is a car with photographs, videos, my golf clubs, all the essentials to abandoning, and really ready to, in case we need in the middle of the night to drive off, we would be ready to go. Not joking, but unfortunately, we haven't been sleeping well at night. And one morning I woke up last week and the sky was not blue, it was orange due to the heavy wildfire smoke. It's really unbelievable how the world has changed. I thought I was on Mars. I hope this is not going to be a precursor for the future. But these type of extreme weather events are not just happening this year. They've actually been building over the last 40 years. You could see the insurance industries are tracking the frequency, and what used to be something happening 200 times a year is now up to 800 times a year. So it's 4 times more frequent, and that's a terrible trend. So the cost of the climate crisis is severe. We don't have time in today's session to get into all of these floods, drought, storm damage, ocean acidification. We've talked about some of these things, but the impact and the cost of carbon is significant. In fact, Davos has announced year after year that it's the #1 threat to the global economy. So when we ask the question, must we change? Of course, the answer is clearly yes. So our next question is, can we change? And here we actually have some pretty good news, because there are many solutions at hand to the climate crisis that we can already deploy. Wind power is predominantly growing very fast. In some places like in Germany the first half of the year, renewable energy produced 56% of the country's power. And that's happening all over the world, where the wind energy is becoming more and more popular. In my state of California, where 50% of all solar panels are installed in my state, some days on the grid, 73% of our energy is provided by renewable energy. And that, again, thankfully is happening all over the world with the growth of solar. I mentioned to you that I got into the solar energy industry in 2009 as a marketing person. So you can see I entered right there, and I did a lot of marketing for the solar industry. So you could see impact, and you can thank me later. But no, more seriously, it wasn't me that did that to the industry. It was the dropping cost of solar panels. And even in the last 10 years that I've been in the industry, when a panel at $2 a watt is now down to 20 cents a watt, that 90% reduction has driven that incredible fast growth and popularity of solar. So let's ask ourselves, what can we do? What can you do to be part of the solution to climate change? Well, here's some examples from what I'm doing. That's me on my roof installing some solar panels. That's my daughter back in 2012 with our Nissan Leaf. So if you go solar, if you get an EV, you can have a solar powered car. And we can do that today. And that's part of the solution. Last year, I decided to challenge myself and see if we could remove all fossil fuels from our home and go all electric. So we changed out our hot water heater. We changed out our fireplace. We changed to an induction electric cooktop. We got heat pump mini split air conditioning heating. And amazingly, in just 45 days, we were able to disconnect our gas meter and disconnect from the grid. And now I can say that my home is a zero emission home in just 45 days. So it was much easier than I could imagine. Another thing that we can do, and I've started to do, is change our diet. We know that a plant-based diet can help because reducing red meat consumption reduces the amount of cows burping methane, which is an extremely potent greenhouse gas. I've started to try various plant-based meals, including Burger King's new Impossible Burger. It was delicious, and I even made my mom and dad eat it, and they thought it was pretty good too. And that's a good sign because research studies show that the impact of plant-based meats like Impossible Burger versus beef burgers, it's 92% less aquatic pollutants, 89% less global warming potential, 96% land, and so forth. It's just so much better for our planet to be avoiding those red meats. So I actually have fun going to the grocery store and trying out different types of plant-based meats. This one from Pure, definitely don't buy this one. It tasted horrible, like cardboard. So don't go after that one. But this Alpha Crumble was made a pretty good spaghetti bolognese, and that was great. So there are many delicious ways to be a part of the solution to climate change that I enjoy trying. So can we change? Yes, we definitely have the technologies we need, and it's getting better and tastier all the time. What we really need are the policies and to change more quickly. So the final question we have to ask ourselves is, will we change? Do we have the willpower to do it as people? And here are a couple things inspire me. I think we could do better, but the Paris Agreement was an excellent start where we got unanimous vote from 195 countries to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by mid-century. And although in our country, in the United States, our president has announced that he wants to withdraw, the US cannot actually legally withdraw until the day after this November's presidential election. And if by chance a new president were elected, that new president could get back into the Paris Agreement within 30 days. Another source of inspiration and hope for me about change is the youth of our world. And this young lady, Greta Thunberg, who at only the age of 15 was out there protesting and raising her voice. And look what happened, and look what she was able to do. I grew up in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, and it wasn't until last year, September of last year, when Greta said, you all should be out there striking along with us youth, that I got out there too and marched down the streets of Washington, D.C. for the first time in my life. So my message is, don't wait until you're my age. Hopefully you can get out there as a teenager and already start marching with others who care about climate. So I ask all of us here on the call to join those who are using their voices, using their votes, using their choices to fight for their future and their community and their world. I ask you to use your voice and your vote and your choices when you buy things to speak truth to power like your world depends on it, because your world does depend on it. So with that, thank you very much for being with me today on this special day and being part of 3,000 other conversations happening with the climate crisis. Let me stop sharing my screen so that we can see each other again. And we're going to now, hopefully that has inspired you to have some questions and that we can have a discussion for the remaining 30 minutes or so that we're on today's session. Okay? All right.
Wow, Wei-Tai, that was amazing. I loved your presentation. Round of applause for everybody who's on webcam.
All right.
Really cool. There were comments coming in about people loving your personal touch. So I think it was a great example. Thank you so much. We're running a bit behind schedule, so I just want to do 2 questions, then do the closing, and then for anybody who wants to stay, we'll stay another 30 minutes in case you have time. But just to be mindful for people that have to leave early. Let me jump to the questions. And I would like to invite Paula or as well to the panel. So if you have a question for Paula, please jump in. Yeah, there were some questions about subtitling the video. Or translating the video that you showed, Wei-Tai. Do you know anything about that, or Paula?
You know, I don't know. So go back to the area that the Reality Hub to download it yourself. There's not a subtitled version or a multilingual version, but they're still 3 weeks away. So maybe that's a request that you can escalate through your branch manager. Good question.
All right, quick question, quick answer. Final one. Does the question of drawdown ever come up?
So that's the book called Drawdown, and I even have a copy right on my desk. Does it come up? Not so often this year, since the book is about 3 years old, but it is an excellent reference source, and I often keep a copy around as a prop to use. So thanks for that question.
All right, awesome. I think let's skip to our ending part just so we end in time. And once more, if you have time, please stick with us for much more time with Wei-Tai and Paula. We'll try to answer all your questions. Yeah, I just want to look ahead a bit, what we're going to do next year. And then we even have a little homework for you to do. Hopefully all of you will come prepared to class next week. Let me see if I can share my screen with you. Are you seeing the 24 Hours of Reality logo? Yes, all right, great. Right, so next week we'll have another 90-minute workshop. We again have a great speaker, Mark, who is with us now. He will introduce himself in a bit. We will start at the same time. That's 7 local time from me, but you know what time you started today, so you know what's going to happen. We'll talk much more about presentation skills. So think about your voice, about how to present on Zoom, what to do with your lighting, your posture, anything that comes with online presenting. And we look really into well, presentation skills. And a big topic that we'll be also talking about is nerves and things like difficult questions, difficult audience. And Mark will talk about that too. Now for homework, if I can call it that, let's call it an exercise. Practice is so important for getting your presentation perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be. As Wei-Tai showed, I mean, he has done over 100 and he's the perfect example of you know, how good a presentation can come over time. And to help you with that, we would like you to practice just a 16 slides deck. We have made a little slide deck. I'll send the link right after I'm done talking where you can download this deck. And it covers a bit of the basics. It covers a bit of your introduction, a few technical slides, a few more emotional slides. And it's a great way for you to get familiar with presenting for the first time. And we'll practice that next week in just a small group of 3 fellow climate reality leaders. So it will be a very safe space. It will be people that are doing the same thing as you, who are having the same nerves or the same questions or the same doubts. and we'll do also a little feedback while we're in those breakout rooms. So I would really like to ask you if you could, if you're with us next week, if you can please do that exercise. It shouldn't take you too long. And again, I will share all the links in this chat later, and I will also try to email you via Eventbrite. Mark, you are with us here. You'll be hosting next week. If you please would like to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit what you are going to do next week.
Oh, thanks, Sander. Welcome, everybody. Good to be here on the call. So, you know, Wei-Tai had this fantastic talk that he just gave to everyone. He shows how it's done. It's a combination of the science, but also the personal story that brings it out. So next week, I want to talk about presentation skills. I've trained hundreds of speakers, mainly to be on stage at things like TEDx events and doing keynotes. So the online world is a bit different. And so we're going to get into some of those techniques, how to build your confidence, how to use vocal variation, your facial expressions, how to have the right mindset to have the right confidence. And as you get into the assignment that Sander had just talked about, I would just invite you to do one thing, which is think of every slide as a mini story. That story might only be 30 seconds long, but it's the story about that slide. And the more you practice that information related to that slide, the more comfortable you're going to be with the overall story. So I look forward to connecting with everybody a week from today.
All right, thank you, Mark, for your introduction. All right, before we go, I would basically like to ask Wei-Tai and Paula one final tip they would give to us of how to give a great presentation. Let me ask Paula first. Do you have a golden tip you can share with us?
Yes, and thanks a lot, Sander. So I would suggest for each presentation that you're going to give, think about your why. What's your why for that specific presentation? What really makes you tick? What really motivates you? And remember about this for the overall your presentation, so that you can feel the motivation, you know, you can feel the confidence, you can feel the authenticity when you are talking to the other people, and just share what you're feeling, what you're passionate about to your audience. That's my best tip. And best of luck.
Great tip, Paula. Thank you. Wei-Tai, you want to give one tip?
Yeah, my tip is real easy, and that is just to sign up to do it. If you're thinking, should I, or I'm not going to be ready, I don't think I could do that, just sign up and commit yourself. That's what I do. And I always just say yes first, and then I say, oh, what did I say yes to? Oh my gosh, now I got to get ready by that crazy date. But I'm personally more deadline driven. If I have a deadline, I work to the deadline. If I have no deadline, I'm not working to it. So just say yes, go sign up first, even though you don't know what you're doing. And that will force you to do something good that you know you want to do. And I know I want to do, but sometimes we can procrastinate, and the climate crisis doesn't let us do that. So please, even if you don't think you do it perfectly, just do it. Sander, you're on mute, so we cannot hear you if you're talking.
I am. I just wanted to showcase what mistakes you can make, right? No, I'm kidding. That was an honest mistake. Wei-Tai, thank you so much for that tip. That was really good. Before the official part ends, I would love to take a group selfie with everybody. If you don't want to be on the selfie, if you don't want to be on camera, if you don't want to be on social media, just switch off your camera and I will take out all the names of, like, the black screens with names of people. If you would like to be on the social media screenshot, please turn your camera on. And we'll also share that same picture in the resource folder I just shared. I give everybody 20 seconds to do their hair, get the lighting right, just so we're all good to go. All right, it's gonna, I see multiple screens, so it's gonna be like a triple selfie this time. Let's see how we can do this. All right, here. All right, I do a little countdown, and I'll do that 3 times because I need to split the screen a few times. All right, here we go for screen number 1. In 3, 2, oh, no, my bad. Okay, 3, 2, 1. All right, awesome. That was picture 1. I see a lot of smiles. I see a lot of hands. Let me save this one quickly. Yes. All right, I'm going to screen number 2. Please, everybody, wave, smile. 3, 2, 1. All right, awesome. Let me see if I need to do it. I have a big screen, so I think it just fits. Ah, no, we have a third one. All right, I'm just going to go with this one as well. Last screenshot, everybody. Stick with me. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, awesome, everybody. I think I got it. I hope I have everyone. I'm sorry if I missed anybody on the screen. There was a lot of things going on. Let me take you back here. All right, so if the official time has ended, if you have to go, I would thank you very, very, very much for attending and would like to please welcome you back next week at the same time. If you have time, please stick with us for the next half hour or so, where Wei-Tai and Paula will be answering more of your questions. I have not been able to monitor the chat for now. Paula, are you able to have chat questions by any chance?
Oh, let me check the chat. So the last question, for example, is when we will be able to share, you know, the recording for this first workshop. So hopefully as soon as possible. We need to check with our European branch manager. Okay, but you will get the link, you will get the slides, you will get everything, absolutely. Okay.
Sander, I had a question if I could.
Yeah, please do.
About the link that you just sent, I went to it and I see the links to various climate reality pages, but I don't see specifically your practice exercise. Are you adding that or am I missing it?
No, that's a really good question, actually, Bernadette. Thank you. If you go to that link, you'll see a title says Google Drive folder, and the home part of that is clickable. If you click on that, you should go to a shared folder which contains all the PowerPoint presentations of today. It contains the exercise, it contains the practice deck, and it will later hopefully contain the selfies I hopefully took just a minute ago and any other things we come up with. All right, maybe if you have a question, just jump in because I lost track of it, sorry. Or raise your hand, maybe that works. Anybody has a question, please raise your hand. Audrey Heller?
I had a question about a call to action for the end of the 24-hour. You'd mentioned that there was a unified call to action for this presentation, that you wanted people to sign up or report in to Climate Reality to get the tree, to get in the tree. Anyway, you tell me.
Yeah, this was Zsolt was
Go
talking.
ahead, Sander.
Sorry, no, Zsolt was talking about this. Wei-Tai, you want to take this?
Sure, I will. Last year at 24 Hours of Reality, they had everybody who attended, they said, we'll plant 1 tree per person. And at the end of our talks, we were asked to tell people to go to 24hoursofreality.org, 24hoursofreality.org, and to register there and pick where you wanted the tree planted. So you could pick South America or California wildfire places. And that was just a way of giving people a little fun choice, but also having them join our mailing list if they wanted to. And I was about to just share my screen because it reminded me that at the last slides, at the end of my closing slide that I had here, I actually have an optional slide that I did not share with you, which is to say, you know, today we're going to plant 1 tree for everybody here. Please go to 24hoursofreality.org to say where you want your tree planted. So that's something I hope that headquarters will come out with in the days ahead. But that's just something for us to look forward to. So great question.
So that slide was from last year. That's not a current. That's not the current one.
That's not the current one. And
Okay.
actually, I just
But there
made
would
that.
be one.
I
Okay.
just made that slide last year, so it wasn't even an official one. But you should just stay tuned to see what headquarters direction will be. But since they have announced the tree planting, it's likely to be the same thing. So I'll put that URL in the chat just so everybody can know where it is.
All right, great. Please raise your hand if you have more questions. I think that's the best way to do it right now. Anybody has more questions? Oh, yeah, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. I put my question into chat for Wei-Tai because I like your posts on social media. Can you share with us the graphics, and can we use it as a template to promote our presentations? Because I really like it. Thank you.
And do you know how to get onto Reality Hub, to log into Reality Hub? If you go to Reality Hub, and on the right-hand side is the big graphic for 24 hours of reality. And when you click there, you will find a whole treasure trove of so many good things, including background screens, right? Virtual screens. You'll see all the social media graphics you can download. So that's, I got that. I just went in there and got it.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of good things in there.
More questions? Kim, let me see.
Sorry, please, hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, please, could you repeat that again? I didn't quite get you where to get the resources for promotion and all that.
Sure, it's in Reality Hub. Do you know when, if you log into Reality Hub?
Yeah.
That's where it's going to be. So I'll share my screen of Reality Hub here. And hopefully you see do you see this countdown to the future on the right-hand side? This huge graphic that says 24. I'm going to click on that. And when you go there, this is really an essential place that I suggest to start with.
We can only see your desktop.
Your desktop, yeah.
I'm sharing the wrong one. Okay, let me try again. All right, sorry about that, folks.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Reality Hub, the landing page that everybody should see.
Yeah.
And then by clicking the number 24, they clamp down to the future, you will get to this page, which is this year's main resource center. And when you scroll down here, there are a bunch of presentation toolkits, building your slide decks, the promotional materials with all the social media assets are in here, frequently asked questions, and then the dot map of where it's going. Now, Europe, you guys got to catch up here. There's not enough dots over in Europe. But we hope to get many more from after today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Florence, for your question. Earlier, I had a question from Laurent Cosino. I probably mispronounced that. Sorry, Laurent. Are you still with us? Otherwise, I'll ask the question. The question was, he has a presentation tomorrow and he should talk for about 30 minutes. He was planning to use about 30 slides. Is that okay, or is it too little slides?
Well, I think if you can do 2 slides per minute and talk for about 15 minutes, then you can leave 15 minutes for Q&A. So I don't think it's too little, because really what we're trying to do here is not use up all the oxygen in the room with our talking. We're trying to leave enough for others to talk and ask questions. That would be very successful if we manage to get the room talking. That's my view. And this is not all about us talking for 29 minutes. So talk less rather than talk more. And thank you for somebody who timed me just now. I think somebody said mine was, what, 15 minutes that when I presented to you. So I was, that was 50 slides in 15 minutes. So I was maybe 3 slides per minute, just as an example.
All right, really good example, Wei-Tai. Kat, Pero, I just see a question run by. You want to ask it on the microphone?
I do, yeah. I have chronic Lyme disease, and so my brain has been affected for the last 8 years with boogies. And I have really good recall at times, and then at other times, details and even a name can drop out of my brain and I can't get it back. When you have an interaction with people and they're asking you questions, how do you, besides saying I don't know, which I've gotten really good at, not being upset about so much, but I want to be able to answer things and not say, let me get back to you. So how do you prepare for that, or what do you try to do to be sure that you can give as much information back as possible during the presentation?
Well, Kat, you point out something that everybody's concerned about, not just your own circumstances. So that's a really good question. How do we prepare for it? And one of the tips, at least for 24 hours reality, is for us to name the presentation on a topic that is in our sweet spot. So I gave you an example of electric vehicles because I've been driving one for 8 years, so I can answer a lot of questions about that. And I hope that by titling my talk on an area of my specialization, that I will be able to, drive conversations into that funnel. So that's one way for you. And during that day, if somebody asks you about, well, what about plastic pollution, or what about regenerative agriculture? I can say, well, I'm not really that much of an expert on it because there's so many solutions to the climate crisis. I was just going to focus today on electric vehicles. So we can have another talk on that, or I can research the answers that, but today I'm here to focus on EVs, right? So that's just one technique to try to, again, direct things into your sweet spot. We can't be know all answers to everybody, but many climate leaders think they have to be an expert on all 500 slides. That's impossible.
So with that, with your grasp of electric vehicles, or being that that's your bailiwick, do you keep a cheat sheet of maybe resources that you could send someone to if you don't have a complete answer or don't want to take the amount of time that it would take? Is that something you've done, or is it helpful to try and do that for people?
I haven't done that because, again, even when you narrow it to my funnel in electric vehicles, that's a whole universe of itself too. It's impossible for me to be an expert on that. So right. I'll try to do as much as I can. And what I can't, I just say, I don't know. I'm only here to share with you what I do know, not what I don't know, right? And I'm happy to, not everybody needs a follow-up. You can offer to follow up if it's a really good question, but otherwise you could say, I don't really know the answer to that. And sometimes you can ask the audience because other people in the audience might know the answer.
True.
I'd like to make a suggestion.
Great, Kimmy, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Kat, if that's really important to you, you could set up a Google Doc and a bit.ly link, right, that you can send people to. So you pick a user-friendly bit.ly link and you customize it right there on bit.ly. And then you link to your Google Doc and list some resources there, including your contact info.
Beautiful. That's gorgeous. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful idea. I'm going to do that. Thank you.
Can I also give an advice? So I just recently, of course, in August, became a climate PI leader. And, one thing, I've already delivered 2, which I think is in a short time I've done pretty well. But what's really helped is every time I give a presentation, I try to build SOPs that work for me. And I've been building those SOPs over time. So I have just like the suggestion given, I have a Google Sheet with resources. I have now email templates. I just keep on streamlining the process. So I think what matters is you get your first presentation in and you start documenting your process. And I think with someone with your condition, I think that works perfectly. But I think everybody should be building SOPs that kind of streamlines the process and just make your life a little easier when you're planning from all the way from solicitation to the end when you're sending resource materials and feedback form, stuff like that.
Beautiful. Thank you. It's great stuff, you guys.
All right, thank you everybody for your suggestions. I would like to do 2 more questions and then finalize the night. Any more questions that are coming up? Kevin, please go.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So my question is, Wei-Tai recommended to talk about what you're expert about at the end. But for example, I'm an expert in food systems, so on sustainable food systems. So for example, I would like to talk about plant-based diets and the consequences of animal agriculture when, for example, when we talk about the sources of greenhouse gas emissions. Do you also recommend like emphasizing into this when I talk about that, or do you really recommend to leave that to the end? Thank you.
Okay, so the question is, what's the good time to put your personal slides in? And I had 16 of my own personal slides, but I pulled some earlier, like the wildfire slide, I think I pulled earlier. So there were, when I can, I'll definitely personalize as much of the front part as I can. I don't have to wait until the very end. So if in the front part you have some data slides about your area of expertise, you should feel free to insert them inside the, to mix them anywhere in Mr. Gore's presentation you want. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And final question. I think, Sam, you're raising your hands virtually. Is that correct? Go ahead if you have a question. No, it might be a mistake. All right. Anybody else wants to ask? I see Darshana, please.
Yeah, hi. Hi. I have one question. Can we record our presentation that we prepare in Zoom recording, and then when the actual time comes, we can play that recording? Is it a good idea, or it has to be always live presentation?
You could do that. You could record yourself and in Zoom or any other way, and then play it back to your, you could then say, hey, I've got a presentation for you that I pre-recorded, and then I'm going to do a Q&A that's live afterwards. And then you could click to play your presentation if that's going to make you more comfortable. I think that's okay. Mark Lovett is our expert on this type of thing. So I'm going to ask for his, what do they say? Ask an expert. What's your thoughts, Mark?
I was sidetracked here. What do you need to know?
Oh, Darshana was asking if instead of delivering a live 15-minute presentation, what if she pre-recorded it on Zoom 15 minutes, and then on the day of, she would just play back the 15-minute recording and then follow it with live Q&A. What's your thoughts about, is that acceptable?
So my answer is not based on, the rules of climate reality and all of that thing, but I actually like that approach as it allows you to really make sure that you have your talk the exact way you want it. It's kind of like making a movie. They always have numerous takes to get it exactly right. So especially if you're not a very smooth presenter and you get nervous sometimes, to be able to record that ahead of time would create a much better talk that you could then show and have the Q&A. So I'm in favor of that kind of approach. Again, it comes back to the slide deck that you need to use to have it recorded.
Yeah, my point was, so you can pay attention to people's question in the chat, because people have always questions. And if you are the only person who is presenting, then you don't have time to look additional, you cannot pay attention to additional chat. So that point you can put all links in the chat.
Yeah, if you don't have an assistant there to monitor the chat and toss questions at you, then you're right. It does become very distracting.
Yes.
To try to keep track of what everyone's saying at the same time that you're trying to stay focused.
That was my experience during breakout session, because I was mentoring it, and people were asking and asking more information, and I could only do one thing at a time. So, that was my experience. That's the reason I'm asking. Thank you, Mark.
And that's a good reason to partner up. I think Zsolt had mentioned that you don't have to do this by yourself. You can get a buddy, a partner, to do it with you. And that buddy can be sort of the support person who is taking care of the chat and anything, just handling and supporting you. And I think climate leaders would be happy to, and that's a great way for maybe some of the shy climate leaders who don't want to talk, but who want to be part of the 3,000 conversations to participate. So that's great, Darshana. Great question.
Thank you.
And to Kat, I would just say in the last couple questions that have been asked, you see, I'm not the expert and I have other people answer with even better answers than I could give. And it's more engaging for everybody if it's not just one person using all the oxygen in the room. So I hope that that technique, you could see it's working here and it will work in every meeting. There's always ways to ask the audience to get involved. And people really enjoy that more than just hearing one voice.
It'll be fine, whatever it is. You know, I'm not shy. So, you know, I don't really care if I mess up. I just don't want to have the brain go blank and just be like completely stymied by something. So more for them than for me.
Sounds great.
All right, thank you, everyone. I think, Wei-Tai, you wanted to have a final thing, or shall we?
No, thank you, everybody. Good luck out there. I hope this was helpful. I'm so glad that you've spent a part of your Saturday evening here together with Climate Reality, and it just warms my heart to see this much enthusiasm, and I'm looking forward to seeing Mark next week and having another one. We're going to be really ready, but even if you're not ready, just do it anyways. Just be part of it. I think that's my closing message would be. All right, so good luck to you out there. You have my contacts, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you, Sander and Paula, for inviting me and being part of a wonderful event today.
Thank you so much, Wei-Tai. Wonderful, wonderful presentation.
Okay,
I agree.
bye, everybody.
All right, bye, everybody.
Thank
Applause
you,
again
everyone.
for Wei-Tai and Paula. Thank you again. And see you all next week, I hope.
Thank you all.
Ciao.
Have a great weekend and see you next week. Bye-bye, dear.